Hi everyone, I hope you're okay. This might be a little bit of a lengthy video this evening, which is Friday the 13th of January, and that's an important date for me because it would have been my dad's 81st birthday, and there's some relevance in that as I'll go on to explain. But for those of you that don't know, my dad, as I say, would have been 81 today. But he's sadly no longer with us because he died on the 18th of October 2021 as a result of the COVID-19 Pfizer booster. He had a heart attack that led to fatal cardiac arrest, and he was just another victim of many of the evil that is stalking this world at the moment. He was perfectly healthy and was cut down. Yeah, he was an old fella, but he was perfectly healthy. Didn't need any medical interventions, let alone any experimental medical interventions. And as I say, he was another one to fall at the hands of these utter bastards. So that changed all of our lives forever. And today would have been his 81st birthday, as I say. I'm sure we would have probably gone out for a meal, gone to the pub, probably would have watched the Everton game tomorrow. I'm sure they would have got beat as they usually do. We would have laughed about it. But symbolically, today also marks the most pivotal and important moment for me, an inflection point, I would say, in the battle that we are all fighting at the moment, the battle between good and evil, between truth and light, and between light and dark. And I'll explain why that is, but you'll probably already be able to guess. And well, the reason is the fact that what us conspiracy theorists and cranks and tinfoil hatters and all the rest of it have been saying for literally years, is now starting to enter the mainstream media. And today I came down this morning, I sat where I'm sat now having a cup of coffee, and my mum sent me a text with a link to Dr. Aseem Malhotra's Twitter, so I clicked on that, and I was flabbergasted, astounded, astonished, but absolutely made up and ecstatic to see one of the figureheads of the the move to expose the horrific lies had to say on BBC News. I gather it was on, I think it was on BBC News 24 channel, so not the 6 o'clock news or anything like that, but still mainstream media, BBC. Now that, to my mind, is the most important intervention since this nightmare started back in March 2020. It was a 7-minute interview with him, and what struck me was the cleverness, actually, of how he handled himself, of how he got across the message. I remember, I'll come back to that in a minute, I remember just about a year ago, actually, there was something similar happened. There was another event that took place, I'm sure you'll all remember, that brought about the demise of the next stage in the plans of the tyrants. So a year ago, it's a long time ago, but also it seems like no time ago. And the threat of vax passports was very real in the UK. They were already commonplace I think in every European EU country and other countries across the world and different states in America. And the threat was lurking as well for them to enter various different workplaces and places where people socialise in the UK. Now, before, I'm sorry, yeah, and then there was the intervention by, I think his name was Steve James, the consultant, I think I've got that right, a consultant intensive care doctor, I think, when he took on the health secretary at the time, which psycho was it? Was it, I think it was Sajid Javid, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a hospital in London, and remember thinking at the time that was weird that the mainstream media kind of like filmed that and then put it out there. And I still can't understand why they did that, but it doesn't matter, they did. And what we had there was verification via what looked like a very, very respectable doctor who agreed with a lot of what us cranks, us, right-wing xenophobic extremists have been saying all along, that, we had deep concerns with this novel vaccine, and we certainly thought that kind of like forced and coerced vaccination was wrong. So that set in motion a process where the next few weeks the threat of the vax passport in the UK just disappeared, it just disintegrated, and it was crucial. Now I remember saying at around that time that the first country to fall, so be it, will be England, in terms of the first domino to fall will be England, just because I think we've got a history for it. I could just feel the resistance was huge. Yeah, in my life, that I've talked about it a lot. I know a lot of different people, and there are those who just go along to get along. I know people who are utterly brainwashed, but I also have a significant number of people in my own life who are real warriors, and I think that's emblematic and representative of the population of England. No, I say England, note not Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, because I don't know so much about Northern Ireland, but certainly got an insight into the psyche in Scotland and Wales, and whether it's changed now. I've not visited Scotland or Wales for a good while actually, but certainly up until that point, the mood was very, very different in England compared to Scotland and Wales, two countries that I had been visiting. The real warrior spirit and the kind of I talk about the psyche in the population of not liking being told what to do, fighting back, resistance, almost a stiff upper lip. Yeah, we'll put up with so much shit, and then we're just going to say no. I saw that at close quarters, and I saw it more broadly in the country. Everywhere I went, I could see it. And England, lo and behold, was the first country for the dominoes to fall, and then probably took best part of 8-9 months for every other country to roll back restrictions, but it did happen. So there was a precedent to happen. History repeats. Populations do revert to type, and there's some truth in every stereotype. But I just thought, we never really set in the tyranny in England. It did, but not to the same extent as in other countries. And the first country to repeal it all and repel it all would be England, and it was. But that was the spear. That was the focal point. That was the moment where kind of our campaign and what is our campaign, truth, justice, freedom, was injected with some real energy and was given some real validation. And that was a year ago, and we've come a long way since then. And we have come a long way since then, but we've got a hell of a long way to go, and we still do. But today, it was massive, absolutely huge. So why is that? Well, we're 3 years into this now, into the medical experiment, into the experiment regarding non-pharmaceutical interventions, into the experiment of, or the attempt of, a small clique of people thinking that they can control the lives of billions of people in numerous different ways. And it's been tough, but it's been like an exponential curve. I'm not an expert in maths at all, but a curve where you feel you're battling and you can't see any tangible results at all. I felt like that for the whole of 2020, most of 2021, all of 2021 actually. So 2 years until the start of 2022, probably, and then I noticed some real changes. Exponential curve, and then it goes like that, doesn't it? And then like that. Now we're just at the point in the curve where it's about to go vertical, and I truly believe that. And what do I mean? What am I talking about? Well, if you could measure emotion, if you could measure anger, if you could measure recognition, if you could measure acknowledgement, if you could measure a population as it realised it had been lied to, if you could produce that somehow in a curve, in a graph, it would go like that, and then and today is a trigger. Today is a trigger for not a mass awakening. That's already happened. You know, we've had enough people awake to what's going on. As much as I dislike the term, I've talked about this before, but aware of what's going on for a long time now. But it was important because what it's done is it's validate in a setting that a lot of people needed to see it on or in order for them to be able to start properly acknowledging what they've done to themselves, what they believed, the lies that they've been exposed to, and the things that they've allowed to happen in their life because it was on the BBC. And now it's sad, isn't it, that people are so still so, or have been so reliant on mainstream media for their information. But for those who are totally aware of what's going on now, the evil that's taking place, but don't want to talk about it, don't want to acknowledge it, don't want to have the conversation, even though probably the anger's starting to really rile them. It's important for them to see that. It's also important for those who've probably got a little seed of doubt now. These are probably your classic middle class, comfortable, complacent, overly educated but not necessarily intelligent lefties, you know, the ones who fill most of the respected, again in inverted commas, positions in UK life, so doctors, nurses, teachers, police, public sector, civil service, not necessarily, you know, striving for anything much in life other than to live life according to a template, told where to go, what to do when they go to their job, what to watch on TV, where to go on holiday, and what to think, and what's fashionable, and what to say in company. And these are the ones who've been most taken in by the lies. But these people, you know, they're the ones with the LGBT flags, the Ukraine flags. You know, they were very vociferous about we should all get the injection, we should all lock down, we should all wear the stupid face nappies. You know the type. Overly educated, not necessarily intelligent, had everything on a plate, money in the bank, fancy car on the drive, big flat widescreen TV, high-speed internet, job promotions every couple of years, you know the type, work from home. These people have also got more than a seed of doubt now. Some of them a seed of doubt and some of them will know. They won't be sleeping at night. They will not be sleeping at night. These are the ones you want to worry about the most, because not only are they now coming to the realization that their lives are their worldview, their illusory worldview has been utterly shattered, but the things that they advocated for and the behaviour that they displayed towards their close family and friends and people in their community, their neighbours, their colleagues, was downright despicable. They've got that to contend with now, and these are the people that will only debate. But they're not really capable of debate, but they will only say reference something if it is in their preferred news media, whether that's BBC, Sky, the Guardian, CNN, you know, the usual establishment, deep state-owned media. And for that reason, the fact that Aseem Malhotra has somehow managed to infiltrate mainstream media with his appearance is hugely significant, massively important, and I take a lot of heart. In fact, I was ecstatic today, and I am, because I can feel. I always feel things and think things, and you know, I'm not right all the time. It's far from it. But there was no way after what's happened to our world and after the things that people have been asked to believe in and to do to their own bodies, the massive changes to their lives, the immoral things they've been asked to look away from, and in many cases the immoral things that they've been asked to do. There was no way, and there is no way, that a society can indefinitely just not deal with that. Can just have this collective amnesia. The collective amnesia, which we're just at the end of it now, before what I'll come to talk about happens. The collective amnesia can only last for so long. People can only not sleep in their beds for so long. People can only not have their souls tortured for so long before something has to happen. A reckoning has to come, and what it needs is a trigger. Bang! There's always a trigger for something to happen, like there was, as I say, with the intervention by the consultant ICU doctor last January, which precipitated the next stage at that point of rolling back the tyranny. Now, I am only talking about the COVID aspect of things here. I'm aware of all the other stuff relating to climate change, biosurveillance, centralized digital currencies, and I could go on and on and on and on. But this is the thing this is the thing that's united the world in tangible totalitarianism is the last few years, all in the name of a disease, which is why we really need to just hyper focus on this. So the trigger, I believe today, if not the trigger, was part of the trigger. Now, I've talked a lot about in my YouTube videos before and in my book about we are living in a revolution and through a revolution. Revolutions aren't events, they're processes. They can last days, months, or years. The revolution that we're living in, as we transcend two eras and two kind of existential ways of perceiving the world, really. This one is lasting years, and we're probably somewhere in the middle of it right now. Hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people across the world are having sleepless nights, I believe, are tortured with these thoughts of what they've believed. They're tortured probably even more by not what they believed, but by how they've dismissed those who had a different opinion, who were trying to protect them. And that's got to play out in a highly significant and historic way. I don't know how. The big question for me is, will it be violent or will it be peaceful? That's probably the biggest question for me. Now, I can't say on this channel what I would like to do, and I would enjoy it to certain individuals, orchestrators. You'll know the names, but that would get me barred. But I would. But it is of such historical evil, the levels of evil, the levels of malevolence involved in terms of the planning, execution, ruthlessness, propaganda, that once populations across the world fully cottoned on to what they've been subjected to, they're not going to go quietly, and the perpetrators and orchestrators will have nowhere to hide. So when I talk about that exponential curve, and we're just at the bottom of it, bang, I believe that's what's going to happen now this year, possibly by the end of this winter, but certainly within the next 1 to 2 years. I'd be confident it'd be by the end of this year. So it's a point of maximum danger, but 2023 will be a year defined more by truth and hope than lies and fear. Even though there'll still be lots of lies and fear, there'll be more truth and there'll be more hope than there was in the last few years, possibly in the last few decades. So as hard as it gets, we've now got something really, really bright to cling on to. And as I say, it was my dad's birthday today. I feel like this. I feel that there's something symbolic in today, Friday the 13th of January, being, actually just struck me there, it's a date superstitiously associated with bad luck, but no, shows what a load of rubbish that is. My dad, who was killed by the jab on his 81st birthday, and we've had a massive revelation today in the mainstream media. Now, the next thing I want to say is about, well, why did it ever have to get to this point? And I'm going to go back again to the individuals who are massive in number. Certainly in the UK, we have a massive middle class. They'd call themselves middle class. They like being referred to as middle class. You know, they think they've got good jobs. They're comfortable. You know, they go to nice restaurants. You know, they send their kids to loads of different classes. They cost a lot of money. They work in the public sector. They can't debate anything. They can't talk about anything. They have a very, very, very narrow window of discussion in their lives. Their lives are very, very, very shallow, very consumerist, very materialistic, very money driven, and very image based. And that's millions and millions and millions of people in the UK, and no doubt in you know, the US, Canada, the other English speaking countries, and no doubt as well in other European countries, particularly northern European countries. And these are the people who enabled the evil, because their worldview is so narrow, they are so neurotic, they are so shallow in their appreciation of their world and what's possible. They are generally quite selfish, insular, and they tend to be the people who work in the government apparatus there, and they tend to be the ones who have enabled all of this to happen. These are the people who, as I said before, are really it's gonna hit them like a ton of bricks, and it will. These are the people you need to worry about. But they're also the people who I hold responsible for the death of my dad, and the death of anybody who has suffered as a result of lockdowns or jabs, or in any other way psychologically or physically damaged by what's gone on in the last few years. And let's not forget, it's millions and millions and millions of people. In my mind, these people share collective responsibility for the death of my dad. And I'll tell you why, because he was old school. So when it all kicked off, he wasn't really interested in it. You know, he watched the news, but he wasn't controlled by it. He lived his own life. And whilst everyone else, including myself, right at the start, was living in fear, my dad wanted to see his family, wanted to see his friends, wanted to go out for walks, have a drink in the house, all the rest of it. He wasn't taken in by it. He wasn't living in fear. The fear, they never got to him. He just got the jabs because that was what his generation did. If you're told that this is in your best, you do it. He believed. He was so of that generation that that's what he did. But what he needed was more people around him and more dissenting voices to sow the seed of doubt in his mind. That certainly he didn't need that booster, and he didn't have it. Despite my best efforts, I say my best efforts, my fanatical efforts, he didn't have it. And many people who do you know who has had the jab who regrets it? Probably loads of people. I know loads of people. Who do you know who's not had the jab who regrets it? I know no one. Everyone's totally fine. I had a sniffle just before Christmas. Ooh, let's get a test. Ooh. I was fine. 48 hours. I think in November, I had a bit of a week where I had a cough. It's a bit of a sore throat. I said, oh, let's go and get a jab. Let's go and get tested. No, it's like, I'm a 40-year-old fella. I'll be fine. My dad needed to have a seed of doubt sown in his mind, and so that he could probably consider whether it was the right thing for him to do medically to get the Pfizer booster. And he didn't. And he didn't because there weren't enough dissenting voices. Or maybe there were by that point. October 2021. But those dissenting voices were being dismissed, were being silenced and censored by these very same people. By the comfortably off, complacent, selfish, narrow-minded, immature middle class that we have in our country. The people who like being called middle class, they like to think themselves as middle class. The do-gooders, the ones who always know the right thing to say because it's whatever the majority says, you know? So, I'm not really angry anymore because I can't be angry anymore. There's two reasons for that. First of all, because there's a natural shift in my energy where I am angry, of course, but for my own self-preservation, and probably in honour of my dad, I can't be that angry. I can't let it take over me. I've got to be more, basically look after myself. And secondly, because people like me, I know, and probably you who are watching this, are needed to deal with the anger that's going to be unleashed, the vengeance and rageful ire that will be unleashed by these very same people who have just criticised in the year to come. And what it highlights to me, to finish on this point, is if ever there was an example, a terrifyingly close to home example for all of us of why words and freedom of speech and conversation is so absolutely of incredible importance, it's what's happened in the last few years. Because words can literally, what are words? Words are the formulation of thoughts expressed through the mouth. An expression of what? An expression of an opinion. Who knows how thoughts are put together and how we decide which words to use? I'm talking now. I don't know how my brain's processing the thought and stitching together the words that I'm using to try to express and articulate the thought in my brain. But that's what is happening, whether I'm doing a good job or not. But that's called an opinion. And opinions are made up of words. And words contain truths. Words also contain lies. Words contain facts. Words contain interpretations. They contain perceptions. They contain analysis. All of these things. So words help us to understand our world. But we can only understand our world. I'd never be able to understand myself and my world by just talking here, because I'm just delivering a monologue. A conversation, when we're able to have our words reflected and thus our thoughts reflected back into our brain, so that we can then process what we've heard using these things called ears, or process what we see, with people's body language. But process other people's words so that they can then enhance or challenge or build upon what we already think. So we might get to the point where we decide that what we already thought, despite what this other person has said, we still stick to the same opinion. Or, crucially, We might have been privy to new information, and if we're emotionally intelligent enough and have enough intellectual honesty, we can change our minds, and that changing of minds can result in our lives being saved. And because we live, so words are literally the difference between life and death. Like, just think about that. Words are the difference between life and death. Words kill people and they save people. The words of these government psychologists, the Chris Whitties and the Susan Mitcheys, the Patrick Valences and all those bastards, their words have resulted in the most horrific death and destruction. And there's other people whose words haven't been listened to, whose opinions haven't been listened to. And I think a lot of people now are wishing that they would have, because they wouldn't have done themselves harm and their family members wouldn't have died or been seriously injured. And that is the price you pay when a society absolves itself of its responsibility to employ a little degree, just a little degree, as I say, of intellectual honesty, emotional intelligence, and basic respect. And I've said all along, the problem is not the Bill Gates and the Klaus Schwabs and the Clintons and the Blairs and the UNs and the WEFs. They're not our problem. And I really wish people would understand this. They are not our problem. They are insignificant. They are clowns. Yes, they're evil psychopaths. And as I say, I'd deal with them if I got the chance. And I would. They're not our problem. Our problem, for those of us who cherish and want to protect our God-given fundamental human rights that were granted to us as our birthright, our problem are the people around us who wouldn't have a conversation and still can't. They're the problem. Because as I say, conversation is the bedrock of society. It's the stimulator of creative expression. It's the solver of problems, and it's the conduit to truth. And it is the conduit to exposing evil, malignant and malevolent lies. So what's happened in the last few years, the awful, abhorrent and tragic happenings and events in the last few years, it's on all of us to a degree, all of us, but it's mostly on those who blindly followed orders because they care nothing for truth, because they care nothing for respect, they care nothing for conversation, they certainly care nothing for science, and they care nothing for, ultimately, for life and for human life. Because if they did, they wouldn't have done what they've done, or in most cases not done what they've not done. So quite a long video today, possibly my longest ever, 34 minutes now, but let me know what you think. Now, to sum up, I'm feeling positive. Society is changing. It did only ever take a minority to most people are weak. They are, and I'll always probably return to that, because I've not seen evidence that most people aren't weak. They just want to be on the majority. They want an easy life. But it only takes a very, very vociferous and determined minority who is fanatical about exposing lies and to bring the ugly truth to light in order for society to change, because we are dragging with us the rest of the population now, because through our work, our combined efforts, however people are doing it, and I know we've all had difficult times, we've all lost our temper, we've all fallen out with people, we've all suffered loss and misery and heartache, injury and illness. We've all had our own unique way in bringing this ugly truth to light. Our own unique way, but we've all been united in this one common vision and goal of destroying this tyranny, destroying this evil, and bringing accountability and justice to those who need it. And because we've done such a good job of it, and because we are invincible, indefatigable, undefeatable. You know, we have made people see what we can see, and now they can see it. There's no going back for them. So we have only been a small minority. Those who've been really active, quite small, probably 10% of the population, maybe less. But that 50-60% that we need to bring with us, we are now. We are. Probably more like 70-80%. We are bringing them with us. And nothing can stop what's coming now. Absolutely nothing can stop what's coming. How it will turn out, how it will play out, what dangers abound, I don't know. But as I say, 2023 now for me, I have more hope. And for that reason, you know, I thank my dad. So happy birthday to my dad. He would have been 81 today. Thanks for watching this video. If you have stuck around to the end, I really appreciate it. Please do let me know what you think about what I've said. I think I've gone over quite a lot. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.